What's up guys? Today I have a very special preview which I've been sitting on since TRE, I know, a whole 9 days, which for me is an eternity because I post daily. This is one that I wasn't sure when I could share, but one of On's athletes who has 15,000 followers on Strava posted a picture yesterday, so I think it's fair game. So with that, today we have the On Cloudmonster Hyper, which is going to be a new dual foam PEBA daily trainer / tempo shoe. Now, I was super excited to see this shoe at TRE because I have been a massive fan of the On line for the past 2 years. Now, this is gonna be one of a few new training shoes On is debuting. And in this video, I'm gonna let you know all the details that we have about the Cloudmonster Hyper and where it might slot into your rotation. Alright guys, before we get into it today, if you haven't checked out the Running Shoe Matcher tool, go to runningshoematcher.com. So this is a really cool tool I built that matches you with the best shoe for you based on your goals and preferences. So you go in there, answer 5 questions about what type of shoe you're looking for, whether you want a daily trainer, a tempo shoe, or a race day shoe, whether you like your shoes soft or firm, and we'll match you with the best shoe for you. So it's live right now and it's free. You can check it out at runningshoematcher.com and I'll put a link in the description below. Also, please go follow us on Instagram at supwellrunning. That's where I put all of the latest and greatest exclusive shoe pictures, and we also run some deals and giveaways over there on the Supwell Running Instagram account. All right, let's get into it. So the On Cloudmonster Hyper is designed to be a cushioned and fun training experience that builds on the success of the Cloudmonster here. So the Cloudmonster is one of the first shoes that truly helped On break through into the American running market. Before that, they'd had a little bit of success with the Cloud Stratus 2, and a lot of their other shoes like the Cloudflow, Cloudrunner were adopted as more casual or general athletic wear shoes, but they didn't really crack the performance running market until the Cloudmonster came out in June, July of 2022. Now, this was one of my favorite shoes of 2022. I absolutely love the massive rocker sensation paired with those CloudTec pods underfoot. And yes, it did have that plastic plated speed board, but in this ride, because those pods were so compliant, it didn't have a super harsh feeling underfoot. Now, if we look ahead to the Cloudmonster Hyper, it's going to be using the same formula here as the On Cloudmonster, except instead of having a full length speed board, it's replacing that element with PEBA. Now, that is a super exciting addition to the On training lineup because they currently don't have any training shoes with PEBA. Yes, their top marathon racing shoe does have PEBA in there, but this is going to be their first training option with PEBA, and without that speed board, it should offer a much softer ride. So one of the main critiques of the On lineup up until this past year or so when they introduced the Cloud Surfer was that their shoes were a little bit too firm, and ironically so because they built so much of their brand on this Cloud moniker. Now, with the Cloud Surfer removing that speed board and this Cloudmonster Hyper also removing that speed board, they are going to have a few more shoes in the rotation that offer that softer underfoot ride that is a little bit more cloud-like. So diving into the midsole of the Cloudmonster Hyper, if you look up here in the forefoot, that's where we see the biggest stack of this PEBA. It was very soft to the push test. It's not going to be the most flexible shoe, as you can see here as I'm bending it. It is a little bit stiffer, and that is due to the dual foam midsole construction. So you can see that PEBA is wrapped in an outside shell of those Helion foam CloudTec pods, and that's going to be a standard EVA. I believe it's EVA blended with olefin. If we look at the standard Cloudmonster here, you can see that it's not the softest foam, but it is fairly durable. I have a ton of miles on this thing and it's still a great walking shoe. I've retired it because I've absolutely chewed through the outsole, but that EVA Helion foam is going to last for a decent number of miles, and paired with this PEBA, it's going to give a little bit more of a supportive, stable ride than a 100% PEBA midsole. Now, heading down to the back of the shoe, we see a full EVA base, so those CloudTec pods are almost identical to what we see in the standard Cloudmonster, so there's no PEBA up in the back of the foot. That's a very common setup. If you look at a shoe like the Boston 12, it's a similar thing, right? We have this firmer standard EVA Light Strike 2.0 in the case of the Boston 12, and then the Light Strike Pro up in the forefoot, which in the case of the Cloudmonster Hyper would be that PEBA. So that standard foam out in the back provides some more stability for stable landings, which should make this shoe a fairly good option if you have mild overpronation. While the Cloudmonster and the Cloud Stratus 2 were not overt stability shoes, they did have really solid stability because On tends to have these built up outer heels. And if you look at what we're dealing with in the standard Cloudmonster here, you can see that they wrap the foam, this EVA, up around the outside of the heel a little bit. They raise the sidewalls, which does lock that heel in place and adds a little bit more of a planted ride. So heading up to the upper, now this is a shoe built on the same exact last of the Cloudmonster. So if you've tried the Cloudmonster on and it fits your foot, this will fit the exact same way. They've gone with a very similar upper here. They made some minor changes to the lacing and the eyelet system. But if we look at what we're dealing with in the standard Cloudmonster, then it will apply to Cloudmonster Hyper as well. This was a very comfortable fitting shoe. On has one of the best uppers in the game, and I love the lockdown that this gets. Decent amount of padding out here in the back and a really simple lacing system. On the inside of the shoe, they've gone with an identical setup here and the same contouring of the foam actually out here on the back. So if you've tried the Cloudmonster, or if you can manage to get Cloudmonster on your foot before this comes out, you should have a pretty good idea of how this fits. It's definitely not a wide shoe, but it is a little bit wider and more forgiving in my experience than a shoe like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 or something from Nike, which tend to have a little bit of narrower toe boxes. Alright guys, heading down to the outsole. Now we'll talk about the rubber in a second, but one of the key things On did here was they closed up that rock catcher 5000 situation. So you'll see here, I didn't even do this on purpose guys, but we got a rock inside the middle of my Cloudmonster here. And that was one of the key pieces of feedback a lot of runners had for the Cloudmonster series and a lot of On's previous training shoes, was that you get rocks and debris stuck up in the middle of that little hole they had. On has closed that up in all of their new training shoes. We're seeing that application here, which should prevent you getting rocks and other stuff stuck up in your shoe. Now to the exciting part, which is the rubber outsole. This thing looks absolutely sick. It is super thick. It looks super sticky. This is one of the most lugged out road outsoles I've seen in a while. I believe the idea behind this is to make this the most beefed up training shoe imaginable. So everything from the outsole to the midsole, they want this to be that ideal training experience that can handle anything that you throw at it. So with that, they've gone with the really solid training rubber out here that can handle light pass. While it's not 100% covered, you can see on the medial side of the shoe there is some exposed foam. There's a decent amount of covering up there in the forefoot, and then on the lateral heel side, which is where a lot of heel strikers and midfoot strikers tend to have the most wear, there is a very thick layer of rubber there as well. So in terms of where this shoe fits in the market, this is On's competitor with shoes like the Boston 12, Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, Mach X. They have gone non-plated here because they want to offer a softer, more cushioned experience. And that also puts it into that Superblast category. Now I didn't get to confirm a price on this, but I believe it's going to be $200, especially given that the standard Cloudmonster is $180, and that puts it right against that Superblast. So if you think about the non-plated, up-tempo, protective, high-mileage training shoe options out there, it's really just the Superblast in a category of one. That's why I was super excited to see the shoe at TRE and to learn that it's non-plated. It gives runners another good option out there that's not going to be as harsh, but it's going to be a really solid option for long marathon training runs and high-mileage periods of training. Now, because this uses a standard EVA in there, it's not going to be a super lightweight shoe. It's not going to be sub 8 ounces for that US men's sample size 9, but neither is the On Cloudmonster, neither is a shoe like the Adidas Boston 12, which actually comes in the 9-ounce range. So this category of shoes is really designed with having some protection in mind. These are not race shoes. These are not meant to be super fast, lightweight. They're meant to offer a nice, fun, cushioned ride that you can pick up the pace in, but they'll also leave your legs feeling a little bit more protected than if you were to go with a standard daily trainer or a faster, lightweight shoe. I'm super excited for there to be another non-plated high mileage training option on the market. This looks like it will be an excellent shoe for marathon training, and it will be coming out this spring 2024. All right guys, so there you have it. That is the preview of the On Cloudmonster Hyper. Let me know your thoughts on the shoe in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing. And I'll be back tomorrow with another video.